Hi, everybody. It is Quinn for the win. If you didn't know that already, I am a self love coach. So, with that said, of course, I can talk about self love all day long because it's been a lifestyle that has offered me so much. How would I say it? So much breakthroughs and experiences that I will never ever forget. And it's helped me to be who I am today. So I am going to go ahead and let Rosemary come in. She is someone that I met inside my self-love community. So if you're looking for a community that's about self-love, to talk about self-love and to learn more about love and stay on that journey of self-love, you can find the support and the community right above there. So Rosemary, I'm adding you now to the live. So I'm actually talking to this man for like the very high, like for the very first time, like in conversation. So
Mm.
so happy to have you here.
I know, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad technology has worked in our favor with the many attempts from yesterday, and we
I
are good.
know.
We're good.
Yes, like it's so smooth. Like we're so professional. Like I love this. Yes.
Totally. I love it. I'm just like, yay, we're meant to be here. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'll probably use a nap right after this though, So, but hey, you know what? If we're gonna talk about self-love, I'm just already energized, I'm just
Mm,
ready to really, how would I say it? Well, for me, being an opening ear to listen to your story, because I know that everybody's story is gonna be different every single time.
hmm
And what's great about hearing other voices and their experience, it's going to relate to somebody else that maybe I can't,
mm.
reach. And self-love is so key. I mean, we hear that all the time. And so let's just get into it. I would love for you to a breakthrough, I mean not breakthrough, an icebreaker question that I like to ask is kind of like on top of your head, like how would you just describe who you are, or like describe
Who
you,
am
like
I?
what comes up. And while you share, I'm going to
Okay.
share this inside of the
All
Facebook
good.
community and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will introduce myself. My name's Rosemarie Dominia. I go by Rose or Rosie for short. Lately, it's been Rosie in the last couple of years. And I'm from San Francisco, California. My background is I'm a nurse. So I have been a nurse since 2007. Started off as a registered nurse, became a nurse
Mm.
practitioner, then recently transitioned into becoming an integrative nurse coach. And that's what I'm currently doing now or starting to build. Like I said, I grew up in San Francisco. My parents did come from the Philippines, so they immigrated here in the late 70s. So why I bring that up is because there is
Mm.
such, so technically I'm first generation, so there is like a culture clash when it comes to me and how I grew up compared to my siblings who were born and raised back in the Philippines, which I think contributes a lot to my personal experiences of what I've been through, and some of the disconnects of trying to relate to what my parents have gone through and my sister and my siblings. So I mean that in itself says a lot.
Oh.
I mean, for people who have families who grew up and you immigrated here, I mean, there's such a cultural difference. So I come from a traditional hardworking Filipino family, and they're hard. We are all are hardworking, but at the same time,
Right.
it's different when you grow up in the States, right? It's just a completely different culture. So that's my little
Mm.
introduction,
I love that. I feel
just
like
to
that
get it
almost
started.
segues into, yeah, that totally, I'm so happy I asked that question because it
Yeah.
totally segues into the question of like, what were the events, right? Like, what were the moments that like led you
Mm.
closer and closer to the self-love journey?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, I'm also thinking, I want to ask you also, like, what was your idea of self-love when we come across it? Because I was not introduced to what self-love was. I don't
Yeah.
believe I even heard what the term was until I got into like a space of about that was about personal growth and X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a two-part question. Like I would love to hear, yeah, what were the events or moments that led you up to the self-love journey? And when you came across it, what was your idea of what self-love was?
I have a long answer for you. Can go like just unravel the scroll of what brought me to here. But the real story behind the way I grew up, and I'm very transparent about my process now, and I'm comfortable being vulnerable
Mm,
and sharing my personal stories, which took a long time for me to do. But growing
yeah.
up, and I didn't know this either, right? When we're younger, we're like sponges. We absorb things that happen, but we don't necessarily know how to process them. So developmentally
Totally.
speaking, what I talk about more is
Mm.
being bullied. When I was younger, I was bullied a
Mm.
lot for having, a lot of eczema, for being different, looking different from what I wear to how I looked. And a lot of that negativity stayed with me until throughout undergrad and going to college. So to answer your
Mm.
question, I mean, growing up with that and not being able to learn how to process those kinds of emotions, especially how the negative impact. And what I brought my family earlier is my family, I mean, I love them to death, but processing emotion is not a common thing, right? I
Mm.
think that in
Mhm.
my family anyway. And that's not saying I don't love them. I do. It's just, everyone has a different way of processing emotion. And I don't know if this is a
Right.
stereotype, but I mean, for my, being a Filipino family, if you're from the old school ways, you don't talk about it. And
Right.
coming to the States and growing up, I see my friends talking to their parents about how to deal with hardship or emotion, but I didn't really have that. In 2014, now here's where my self-love journey started. I was in a
Mm.
long-term relationship with my ex. We were going on 6 years. And
Mm.
at the end of that, we both wanted different things and we broke up. I remember feeling very empty and depressed. But I also, I mean, it takes two to tango. I'm not saying that it was his fault or my fault. I think we were just growing in different paths. That's just what happens. That's why most relationships end, is
Right.
because you want different things. You're not on the same line. But I looked at it because I
Mhm.
was very insecure growing up. And a lot of the stuff that I was
Mm.
processing with the bullying and trying to find myself as beautiful, I was searching for those answers through him. And I didn't know how much that would get to me. I mean, hindsight now, I see it that that wasn't the healthiest thing for me to do, because now I was displacing a lot of my insecurities on him. And I mean, we were still friends, so I mean, we were still good in terms of our
Mm.
friendship. But just looking back at that, I'm like, you know what? I need to start putting this within myself. So I made a conscious choice at the end of 2014 to love myself. I had no idea what was in store. All I knew at the time was that I knew I needed to say I love you to me and to have that come from me from a very whole place. And there again
Mhm.
were a lot of things in my life until that point, that a lot of negative stuff, the bullying, just being made fun of, not feeling good enough. Like, I had a nursing degree, I had a career, I mean, I was making money, and none of that seemed to really fulfill me. And
Mm.
I carried those heavy thoughts about not being good enough throughout the majority of my life until that point where I said enough is enough. Because it was at that point I was doing it to myself. No one was doing that to me. Yes, people have hurt
Mm.
me from the past, but when that carries over and they're not necessarily hurting you, it's just in that moment that person says something to really make you feel a certain way. But how you process that over and over, like recycling, right? You recycle those negative thoughts, it starts to really eat you up inside. And that, I remember feeling that way. It was really draining. And that
Mm.
the voice of negativity, pessimism really, really circled in my mind very heavily. And I just said, enough is enough.
Mm. I relate with you as far as like that conscious, I like how you went to like you made that conscious decision to
Mm-hmm.
like start like saying like the idea of like saying I love you to myself, you know. Yeah, I relate with you on that. For those of you guys who know my story, mine was from a breakup as well. And I
Mm,
like, well, of course, like when we say breakup, we're also mentioning events that have
yeah.
happened before getting into the relationship. So I like it that you brought bullying up because I was bullied as well.
Mm,
And it's such a common theme to hear about like feeling that we're not good enough, right? And then we get
yeah.
into relationship and then looking back, right? Hindsight, looking back,
Mm-hmm.
we realize, wow, we were really trying to find somebody to solve it for us or like fill up that or like aid that pain for us. We're looking for like a nurturing partner.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, like, wow, we are actually or we have the capabilities of being our own nurturing person.
Yeah,
So I
exactly,
really
exactly.
appreciate you, and yeah, I really appreciate you being vulnerable and yeah, doing the self-love work because we would not be on here today, we wouldn't be here today. So since you have said yes to yourself in 2014, woo, what were some of the ways that what were some of the ways that you showed up for you? Like, what were some of the immediate things that you saw yourself doing that was extremely helpful
Mhm.
getting into it, because I know it's not perfect, and right, it's
Oh
gonna open
no.
up even more things for you. It's like, woo. It's like when you say yes, you're opening that door, right? Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm just curious how you guided yourself into that lifestyle, if that makes sense. Like, what
No,
really helped you?
I know your question makes perfect sense. I was like playing the memories in my mind while you were saying that. So right
Mm,
before my ex and I had broken up, we were seeing a couples therapist who recommended that we have our both our
mm,
individual therapists. So
mm.
I decided to stay with my therapist, and I'm still with her until this day. Um,
Wow,
and that's
that is
where, I mean,
amazing.
dedicating that work into committing to, and it wasn't even about the money, it was about dedicating my worth, right? Investing in myself. I mean, these are the
Hmm.
values of like therapy or coaching, is that I made the stance to say, you know what, I'm going to do the work. And I remember telling my therapist, I'm ready. I'm ready to unlock these doors that have chains, that have dust over the window. I'm ready to look at them because I've been suppressing it for so long. And I
Mm.
was seeing her every week for a while to get this started. And girl, all these emotions came up. I mean, you name it. When you start looking at things, and I was 27 at the time. So
Mm.
27 years looking back into all of that and all these boxes that were just put into storage that had dust. I mean, you maybe had the mice going around. I mean, like an old attic. And really looking at what is it in my life that started off these
Hmm.
negative thoughts and how I have dealt with it. I mean, sometimes to get to the root of something, you have to look back where it started to understand why it came
Yeah.
up in the first place. So it was a lot of intentional, conscious digging, even into my subconscious, of how these habits of I'm not good enough have stayed with me
Hmm.
for that long, like 27 years, right? Um,
Hmm.
Another way is I meditated. I started getting into mindfulness meditation,
Hmm.
and I joined a couple of groups just trying different things out, but trying to sit still with myself, which I couldn't do either. I was all, I was a busy, stressful nurse, on the go, on the go, on the go, gotta get this done.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but if you're a busy person and kind of type A, I mean, I am, I'll admit it, I have to get things done, left checking it off the list. I mean, it's just who I am. But when it
Yeah.
comes to sitting still with yourself, it's a different
Right.
story. You have to slow down, unfortunately. And it's not a bad thing. Now I see it as a value that I have the ability to slow down and say, okay, what's going on, Rose? Let's check in and do a little one-to-one heart talk. But those two things alone, so the therapy and the meditation,
Mm.
huge tools that I
Mm.
still do until this day, because that's a lesson in myself
Mm.
and how much I love myself to say, you know what, I need help. And it's hard to say that for any of us. It's hard to admit sometimes to say, I need help. Who do I go to? Because I think nowadays in this culture, getting self-help is not something to do. It's not the cool thing to do. I think it's the cool thing to do. It's like the new pair of Nikes
Right.
for me, right? So the new shirt, the new jacket to wear. It's coming. It's coming. This kind of work is coming. It's coming up, and I'm in the world we live in now with so many things going on. I mean, it would just help to everyone to have an open heart, because there's a lot of things going around that can really just close us up and can really hurt us on a conscious level and on a spiritual level. Many
Mm.
things.
I love everything that you just mentioned. We can have like a whole hour conversation about each like process that you mentioned. Well, first of all, right, like getting
Yeah,
support. So, like, even before
exactly.
that support, it's a very vulnerable process because
Hmm.
we know that we're in pain and we're being humble enough to be like, you know what? I don't have it all figured out. And what kind of support is there out there? So, love that you mentioned finding support, seeing a therapist, and then meditation. I relate with that because that's where I went to meditation and journaling a lot. So
Mm.
I feel like there's something about going to these practices that are very, it's like gentle, right? It's not like
Hmm.
getting up and working out, which feels awesome as well. But guess what?
Yes.
Like, I didn't grow up active. Like, what is working out? Like, what does that even mean? I work out now, but like then, like, and I feel like yeah, with like things like meditation and like having a safe space to talk to, those are very
Hmm.
gentle, nurturing things, and it all invites what being present means and what does it mean to check in with self, you
Yes.
know?
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
girl,
you're
it's
like,
huge. I mean, this would take like a 10-hour to live talk to really dive into like the deeper process of, looking within you. I mean, because all of us, we're all
mm-hmm.
human beings are complex. And on an individual level, all of us have many, many layers that make us us. But
Yeah.
we are, I do believe that we are all born pure. And through time, like an onion, you just build layers. So if you're born pure and you do kind of that work to get back to it, it's just about peeling off the layers. But yeah, for every
Mm.
individual, that takes a certain kind of work, and it's different for everybody. It is, it just
Yes, it's
is.
different for
Hmm.
everybody. Thank you for mentioning that. Is there any other, like today, you said that you're still seeing that therapist till this day, which is
Yes.
amazing. Talk
Hmm.
about consistency and meditation. Has there been anything else that you found that you've added into your life that's a healthy practice? Curious to hear
Hmm.
about that, and I'll tell you why later, but I can probably relate with you on this. But yeah, just curious. Has it opened up
Yeah.
to anything else that you incorporate in your daily life now?
Well, I love tackling things from my mind, body, spirit. So, right, my
Mm,
mind is more working on therapy. I mean, meditation can be mind, spirit, but I love to
yeah.
dance. I'm
Yes,
not as
that's
active, but
right.
yes, so
Yes.
people know me as the hip hop nurse. If you guys watch Joe Coy and see the nurse scene, if you know what I'm talking about, that's everyone's like, oh, Rose, that's you. So dance for me has become such an essential part of expression of emotion through the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't need the words, I
Mm-hmm.
can just dance. So that has been such a powerful thing for me on and off, even just to listen to music and freestyle in my room. Like that's a form of
Right.
dance for me. So I love that. And I like working out wise, I do work out at the gym. I mean, obviously I haven't worked out lately because it's closed, but finding some physical form for my body to just release and exercise those muscles. So essentially exercising muscles in the mind, body, and spirit. That's what I try to do. And I'm proud of myself because I can
Mm,
say that I'm consistent. Sometimes I might not do it every day, but I will do a variation of it for the majority of the week, just because that's what I know works for me. So now I have a good like self-love routine that I implement that's
mm,
specific for me, that works for me, that doesn't feel like a chore, right? It's not like I have to do my homework or I'm not going to get that grade. It's not about that anymore. It's really knowing what things fill my soul in the morning and where I can go to sleep at night feeling thankful and have that gratitude for just having the ability to do those things and make time for it.
mm.
So it's investing energy, that energy management. Where do you want to put your energy for yourself? And that's key. We can't function in life without having essentially a healthy mind, body, and spirit. It all comes from there. So imagine if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
have that, how would you be functioning in the world? Maybe from an empty cup, right? Right? Like a car
Yeah.
without gas. You're gonna start to slow down,
Mm.
get sick, burned out, and I've gone through that too. That's a whole nother hour
Right?
on
I
burnout.
know. Oh, I'm loving this talk so much. Oh, first of all, yes, like from going what you were doing to
Mhm.
now, you have come across other self-love practices that work for you. So what I'm hearing is like you know what it takes to get to your best self. Like we
Mhm.
dive into these healthy outlets and we can see the result of how we're feeling after doing it and also really being consistent with it, right? So it's kind of
Yes,
like,
it's key.
okay, this is what it takes for me to be at my best self. What if I can maintain this? What if I can, put in this effort to feel that way every single day? And I like how you brought in like just the term of functionality. Like
Mhm.
you notice how you're functioning, right? Like how is your engine doing? How is your car? Like what kind of gas are you putting in the car? Like you can kind of gauge and see where you're not functioning very well.
Yes.
And also knowing what's the gas for us. What's the
Mhm.
gas for us to get us going? Oh my gosh. What else did you mention? It was so good. I like how you mentioned what was it about in investing in yourself? Like that's like a new pair of Nikes. Like I love how you like said that because like I rarely buy clothes for myself.
Mhm.
I used to spend a lot of money on makeup and like clothes. But
Yep.
now it's like I'm noticing how I spend my money. It's all for my lifestyle,
Yeah.
whether I'm investing in my
That's it.
business or investing in food,
I hear you.
like something that I'm going to use that's going
Yep.
to be gas for me,
Mhm.
So I love how you mentioned that.
Thank you. Thank you. But I can tell I
Yeah,
can relate. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, would love to hear how you got into coaching now, because right, like
Mhm.
we experience our rock bottom
Mm.
and we realize that we've had enough. We go seek help. We experience helping ourselves. We experience
Yeah.
happiness, self love. And now that when you feel so good, right, what do we end up doing? We would like to share with others. We start to see ourselves, oh, wow, like if I'm feeling this way and I've been able to figure out some things that's changed my life, you start to think about how you can be like selfless, and then you get into
Mm-hmm.
service mode. So would love to hear that transition, and then like basically getting into like, yeah, basically like what you're working on now, and
Got
like
it.
what do you feel like that's what's next for you personally and professionally? Yeah.
Mm. Well, you know what? I'm going to say this. The self-love journey is not linear. It's not linear. It does
Mm,
not go in a straight line. So
right.
in 2014, things were going up. It was cool for a little while,
Mm,
and then things
mm,
started happening around 2017, and then I hit rock bottom again in
mm,
2019. What happened in
mm,
2019 was I lost my dad suddenly. So my dad had a heart attack. I was with
mm.
him through that whole thing. And
Wow.
I mean, I miss my dad so much. I mean, it was probably the hardest thing to see in my life so far and be like a witness to his transition into the next life. And don't get me wrong, I was honored to be there with him. But
Yeah.
when I think back, and not to give this graph like a visual, but he literally, I turned for a second to put his clothes down on the counter. We're in the hospital, and I
Yeah.
turned back, and he's already in a heart attack. So turning around to someone you love, and you see their body, but they're unconscious. And I remember in that second, it just hit me. I was like, oh my God, life can change in any second. And what happened
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, I was already going downhill. Like I was in a job that was very stressful for me. And this is
Mm,
not saying anything bad about them. I just was not living my passion. I was getting sick a lot. So here I am going through this burnout and then losing my dad very quickly. This all happened like on a very steep slope. Like it really just
mm,
crashed. So that's how I
mm,
started off 2019. And then when I quit that job in June, that
mm-hmm.
summer from like July of 2019 all the way to like October 2019, I got
Mm,
really sick. And talk about how
mm,
stress manifests with the body. And I do believe that when we carry certain kinds of emotions inside and we don't are not able to process them healthfully,
mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
cannot fully let them go and find that forgiveness or peace or whatever you need to find for yourself. It will translate in your body. So for me, my legs were swollen, girl. They look like elephant trunks. And my partner can attest this.
Wow.
My sister said my hands look like Mickey Mouse hands, like those cartoon hands. You see them, they're puffy. And they were trying
Wow.
to rule, yeah, they
Wow.
were trying to rule out cancer.
Wow.
I mean, there were some lab results that were abnormal. Like I was in such a horrible state. So I call 2019 like just like the phoenix being burned to the ashes. So it took me even
Oh,
starting my
yeah.
journey from 2014 to 2019, right? It wasn't this linear thing. It's like I still wasn't listening to something. And I think the universe just really went, okay, now
Mm,
you're going to listen and start to live your life
yeah.
according to your soul's purpose. So that those events of
Mm,
2019 finally put me in this place that I accepted, right? And it felt very wholehearted from my soul and in my intuition, every part of my body that I need to start doing something that I love. And that's how, the
mm,
going into nurse coaching came about. And I do remember going into a conference just to test it out. So it was through the International Nurse
mm,
Coach Association. They offer certificate programs, and I was
mm,
following my intuitive hunch. This is my inner voice, my guide telling me that I was on the right path.
mm,
I didn't know how I
mm,
was going to get there. I had no idea, but I just knew that this was going to be the right thing for me to do. So throughout
mm.
my patient care, it's like 13 years of being a nurse. I always enjoyed conversations with my patients. That was the best part of my day. Yes, I go in there, say
Right?
hi, listen to your
Yeah.
lungs, listen to your heart, listen to your stomach. Yeah, I did like the mini physical exam of going in a room and then I have to go and see the next patient. But what I really enjoyed was taking a moment like this, like with you, and just saying
Yeah.
how are you doing, or is there anything else that you need before I go? And usually that's where the magic came, and where patients were
Yeah.
able to be vulnerable, with me and express their honest opinion of how they really felt. And in that app before I left, I loved seeing the smiles on their face, like thank you for helping me today.
Mm,
Because
mm,
I went in there for a specific reason, right? To check on for example, why they had a stomach ache. But there's more to that. Health is just not physical, mental, emotional,
mm.
spiritual. There's so many different
Right?
components of health. And so is the health from within, spiritual, that deeper work that we're doing. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at that, having this program come about, I took a risk and I didn't know how this was going to happen either, but I did work with a business coach to start my new coaching business, which is called Reaching New Depths Coaching. So I mean, I will say it's a really good passion, like it's a passion from within. If
Yes.
people ask me what it's about, it's about mastering self-love first, and how that
Right.
can be important to these infinite possibilities that you can create to yourself. So my process is one that's it requires, my clients to go to a vulnerable place. But of course, I
Mm,
am that person, and I know within myself from my nursing background and who I am is I can provide a safe, non-judgmental space, really ask those deep questions. I don't pry, I don't force, but if you're willing to go on that journey with me, I'm willing to go there with you because I know I can provide that. So that's how my
mm,
coaching business started. It just really started from knowing what I was good at and finally following, what I knew was my passion and to help people in that way. Because you're right, being vulnerable is a hard thing
hmm.
to do. It's a
Yeah.
hard thing. And there can be some shame around that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Embarrassment,
Hmm.
but you have to find the right people to do it with. There are people out there
High
like
five.
myself, I mean, you get it. Like, there are people now that I'm meeting, I'm like, yes, we all are cheering on
Hmm.
people who really want to go into their process and start to love
Oh,
themselves from within.
right. Yeah, when I'm hearing your story, share that, most of the time, would you say like it takes experiencing such a tremendous amount of pain to force ourselves to stop and
Yeah.
re-ask those questions, kind of like pressing that reset button. Okay,
Hmm.
something is obviously not working, universe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And and as we have that big awareness like ever
Mm.
before, we are able to listen deeper
Yep.
and yeah, grabbing and taking a look at what is it that really made your heart like warm and feel fulfilled. And I've had some possible experiences too. So I mean, nurses, they're there with you like throughout your process. So it's just so perfect. And of course, you're like curious about coaching as well and going deeper with a human being than just this like checking out like their health on the outside or whatnot, but
Hmm.
like going deeper like spiritually and emotionally and providing that safe space. um so thank you. That was so freaking beautiful. And I agree with you with the safe space and vulnerability. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick
Yep.
because with my clients, I'm always asking, okay, let's take a look at like who do you feel safe around and who you do not feel safe
Mm.
around because sometimes we hope we have this attachment to people, like for an example like family, right? Like we grow up with this certain expectation of family to be that your safe space because it's family blood,
Mm.
grew up together, grew up in the same house. And sometimes we forget the fact like wait a minute, like maybe this is not a safe space for me to share and to actually look for ways to experience a safe space to share. So what has your experience with experiencing a safe space yourself? And why is it so hard for people to be vulnerable?
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
That first part of your question is how I found a safe space, and this took
yeah,
years. I mean, we do, and
yeah.
I'll use that example of family. Family is just
Hmm.
family. You're born with them, you live with them, but I think throughout my own journey, and through my life
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
recognizing what role each person plays in my life. And sometimes the
Yes, yes,
sad
yes, yes,
truth
yes.
is
Mm,
that the person that you want, because maybe they're your family or they've been your best friend for an X amount of time, should be, right? Should be the person,
should be,
but not,
yeah.
yeah, right? There's an attack, like an expectation and on that puts weight, and we get hurt because we have that expectation. But recognizing
Hmm.
who they really are. Like, I've had a lot of people
Hmm.
come in and out of my life, and I mean, I don't have any gripes with that. I think I came to terms with, if people are meant to be in my life, that it'll be an equal
Hmm.
exchange of energy. So now I just know where to put that energy in. But it took a while to sort that out. People who I
Yeah.
knew for a long time and I thought I would have some really good
Hmm.
ties with ended up not being that way. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. But it's also knowing
Hmm.
that, you yourself as a person, you're worth it to be invested in by the people around you.
Hmm.
And it should go
Hmm.
both ways. But each person, I feel like friends play such an interesting role in everyone's life because they all add a certain dynamic. One makes you laugh, one's the homegirl,
Totally.
one's the homeboy, one's the one who's very direct and like no BS. I mean, but knowing how these
Yeah.
people help you in your life, is really key to finding what what you need or what kind of support each person gives, so that you also know for yourself who do you feel safe around in a certain kind of topic. And you
Mm-hmm.
might be that lucky
Yeah.
person who has a friend or a partner who can just fulfill all that for you too. Right? But
Right,
it does
right,
take
right,
some
right.
teasing and knowing,
Yes.
yourself and what you need.
Yes. Thank you for that. Like what I'm hearing through that too is like you're almost like becoming like if we can put ourselves in an observer position, we
Mm-hmm.
will be less likely to get triggered or something because it's like we're watching where how people are showing up
Yep.
and almost like what can I learn about this person and where they're at or what is it that they're teaching me right now, whether it's directly or indirectly. Um, yeah, like as we go out there and as we're on our own journey, we can like practice practice
Mm-hmm.
our processing and understanding. We can practice being compassionate. We can
Yep.
practice being accepting. We can practice healthy boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and what to look out
Yes.
for. So yeah, it's definitely a process. Because I
Yes.
know so many people talk about healthy boundaries, and yeah, it's constantly like I feel like it's a great question to ask yourself every day or like frequently, just like a self check in your
Yeah,
environment, like,
it's
I
true.
just had lunch with this person. Why do I feel this way? What was it about that? And so, um, yeah, it's quite an interesting and awesome experience to go through your own journey and also being mindful of your interactions with other
Mm-hmm.
people and learn from that and make your adjustments as you need. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
say
yeah.
one way, and one of my former bosses, and this is when I started getting into meditation. She
Yeah.
had said that, approach things with curiosity. Like,
I
wait,
love
what?
that.
Why is that? Because but curiosity can release judgment and expectation, because then you're approaching
Yes.
something more with a question like, I wonder why such and such is this way. I wonder why they did this, instead of attaching like, oh, this person is mean, or oh, this person is this certain way, and that's it. So that has been a very helpful tool for me to approach any situation that I start to either feel uncomfortable in, or I
Yes.
just need to, be real. Like, what other things do I need to know, or other facts I need to collect to know that I'm in a safe
Yes.
space, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because when we ask questions, we're challenging ourselves to understand. We're challenging ourselves to dig a little bit deeper than staying on the surface and I'm uncomfortable, like,
Mm-hmm.
ugh. you know
Yep,
I
exactly.
love that. Yeah, it's almost like let's get curious, everybody. Let's get a little curious. um Great. So, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's watching and who wants to connect with you, like how can they do that? How can they find Rosie?
Okay.
I'm gonna call you that from
How
now.
about
Rosie,
Rosie?
Rosemarie, Rosie. How do they find Rosie?
Okay, so I love connecting. Please feel free to reach out to me. I mean, we are on Facebook right now, so if you search
Yes.
for me through my full name, majority of my stuff is already public at this point because of my business under Rosemarie Dominia. And I'll also put some
Mm,
more on the comments of this chat, just my website for coaching, if you want to follow me on
yeah.
Instagram. But I love
Mm-hmm.
having conversations and connecting, whether it's, in person, through DM. Seriously, come and ask me. There's no harm in asking and just getting to know, like, what
Yeah.
is it that this girl does? She's a dancer and she's a coach. What kind of combination is that? That's why my Instagram name is hip hop and PSF. Just want to add that in there. But
I
yeah, if
love
you
that.
guys are interested, just know right now for my coaching services, I only provide one-to-one coaching, and I'm more than happy to discuss details to see
Mm,
if we're a good fit together. Because that's what's key,
right?
is working with someone that you know is a good fit that goes both ways. And I want to make sure if anyone wants to work with me that we definitely have that conversation. It's not a sales call for me. It's more just getting to know you and you getting to know
Right?
me. That's what
Mm-hmm.
it's about. I'm not trying to be like, you need to buy this, this, and that. I mean, I'll be real and tell you if how I feel about the connection, and I hope that you can do that for me in return. I want to get the best results for any client that works
Mm-hmm.
for me and make
Right?
sure that
That's
I'm
only
that
fair.
person for them. Yep. But you have to
Right?
get a hold of
Almost
me.
like
The social media platforms. That's how it's been these days. So
right? Like seriously, I don't have any business cards. It's almost like here, follow me, follow me, follow me. What was I gonna say? Yeah, it's like dating. I wanted, when we
it's online
I
dating.
see
Yeah.
everything like dating. It's like, let's
Mhm.
talk first before we commit to each other in this journey. It's so
Exactly.
true.
Exactly. But
Oh my
please
goodness.
reach out. I can't wait to see more people just to connect with and be friends with on
I
Facebook or
know,
Instagram. It'd
right?
just be
Like
great to
building
just
this
connect.
community, exactly, building this community of like safe people to be around. I feel
Hmm.
like that is so needed in this society, and as we like navigate through life, like we need safe spaces to express and
Hmm.
be vulnerable. Um, yeah. So thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
I
Thank
really
you.
felt
Thank you.
you, I really felt like your personality and like who you really are really shined through like your story. Like
Mm.
genuine, safe person. And it's almost like how would I say, because you've connected with yourself in such a real way, when we experience that, that's all we strive for. Like we go there. Like it's almost like I see you, but let me show you that I really see you, you know?
Mm.
So I really felt that, and I appreciate your energy, your vibes, and mostly the work that you've done on yourself, because you were able to convey so much value in what the self-love journey looks like. It may look differently, however, there was support and you found healthy
Hmm.
outlets. And
Correct.
here you
Yes.
are, like embodying you and paying it forward to the next person. Um, Love it that you dance. Love it that you found coaching through nursing and your love for people. So, yeah, I'm excited. Like I feel like this connection is so awesome. I love it that you just popped in the group and you're like, hey, I'm like, hey, what's up?
That's true. I was just like self-love communities, like just searching for these communities, and like you're like the first group that I joined. I'm like, okay, this is cool.
Cool.
I like this. And then when we instantly connected, I'm like, awesome. That this is the kind of stuff I really value and enjoy. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform,
Yeah.
for having me to share my story and connecting. I really, really appreciate that. So I really want to express my
Yes.
gratitude. And girl, you're doing some great work. So, and you are doing
Girl,
it every day. Thank you
thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you. Yes. And also, like, I feel like we had such a good conversation. If there's any important topics that just like jumps out of you and you want to make a live out of it, I'm totally down. I'm
Cool.
totally down. Yeah, cool.
Will do.
All
Will do.
right. Thank you
Cool, cool.
everybody for tuning in with us. If you're
Thank
watching the
you.
replay, go ahead and comment and ask all the questions. We will check it and answer back, and make sure you connect with this woman right here. Thank you for sharing your story. I know
Thank
there's
you.
so much within the story, but yeah, cheers to the journey and paying it forward and being the love, being the
Hmm.
love.
Yes. Thanks. Thank
All
you so much,
right.
bro.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. I will see you later. See
Yes.
everybody later as well. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks
Have
for
a good
watching.
evening.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.